There's not a nonprofit out there that intends to drive donors away, and yet it's happening. Having analyzed hundreds of donor files, we know for a fact that donor attrition rates are between 40 to 60% on average. So, to help you discover how to better retain your donors, today we're talking about all the terrible things nonprofits do that hurt their donor relationships. Avoid these blunders, and you'll already be on a path to better serving your donors and accomplishing more for your mission.
Welcome to the Nothing But Major Gifts podcast from Veritas Group, featuring Richard Perry and Jeff Schreifels. Twice a month, we bring you the latest and best thinking about major gift fundraising, so you can develop authentic relationships with your major donors. Here are your hosts, Richard and Jeff.
Welcome to the podcast today. I'm Jeff Schreifels, and I've got Richard here with me. This is going to be a fun conversation because
it sure is.
We'll be talking about some of those absolutely terrible, makes you want to pull your hair out things that we hear nonprofits doing that are damaging the organization's relationships with their donors.
Well, that's why I don't have any hair, Jeff. There's none left because I've pulled it all out. But we've certainly heard some crazy stories over the years, haven't we? I mean,
oh my gosh.
Now, as we go through these, you got to keep an open mind and be willing to recognize that you may have done some of these things too. I mean, that happens.
Well, no doubt.
I mean, but you now have an opportunity to learn the lesson and change your approach moving forward.
Oh, that's a really good point, Richard, because making mistakes or making the wrong call is really, it's all part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
But if you aren't learning from that, then you're missing out on a big part of the experience. So let's get started today. Let's talk a little bit about some of the thinking that leads fundraising leaders and professionals to do those totally terrible things. So, Richard, let's start with the first one. And this one is really about the bigger picture, not really understanding the role of fundraising in an organization.
I know it's just so basic. I mean, commercial companies understand the role of sales and marketing in the commercial area. I mean, right. If they didn't have it, they wouldn't be actually selling any product or services. But for some reason, fundraising is sort of like just reduced down to this. In some cases, well, we just got to do it, so we can just get the money, and they don't elevate it up to a level of valuing. In fact, in the hierarchy, it's like program, is the very most important thing, and then fundraising is this distant cousin that lives in a small shed out back somewhere.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what's happening, and it's just like, this is why we see nonprofit leaders not wanting to invest in anything in the program to make more money. Like how many times, Richard, have we presented a plan to an organization that shows if you invest this X amount right now, in 2 years, it will return 4 times as much,
right?
Or 5 times as. I mean, it's like, why wouldn't you do something like that? And it's because they don't care about the fundraising side of things.
Well, I mean, I had a situation where, there's that. And then there's a situation of just the valuing thing. Like, for instance, when you look at a nonprofit, what a nonprofit exists to do is perform a societal benefit to address a societal problem, right?
Right.
I mean, that's what it does. And so the mission of the organization is to do X or Y.
Right.
And of course, that's the most important thing. But then what's not valued is the fact that you've got to bring along a host of donors, individual and institutional donors,
right,
to actually get that done. And that part there is, as we're going to be talking about later on in this podcast, is also a very important function.
Yeah.
That's not only about getting the money, but it's about all the dynamics, the human expression, the investment of other people. I mean, it's a very important function.
Yeah.
I mean, another area here that's interesting that is sometimes misguided is misunderstanding the role of the donor.
Yeah. So what you just said prior to this makes it just flows into this. It's like, well, they don't care about fundraising, or they don't really understand the role and that fundraising places, and they don't understand how important the donor is in the whole relationship to the ecosystem of this whole nonprofit and how it runs. Without the
Exactly.
donor, you're not going to have the program.
I
And
mean, yeah,
not honoring the donor and looking at them just as a source of revenue to get the program done. That's the other side of this, is that they totally don't understand that if you are going to do this big mission and you are going to bring in individual donors to help you, they have to be looked at as partners.
exactly. Exactly. Uh, this, I think over the years, Jeff, what we've discovered on this point is that if you analyze what's absolutely happening in this whole area of the donor as it relates to the organization, it's a human being who has a calling, and I'm using the word calling not as a spiritual term, but just
Mm-hmm.
as a purpose. There's a purposeness to this person in this person's life that says, I want to do something about that.
Yeah.
And so they've now sought us, this nonprofit, out and said, and I want to do it with you. And so it's this person's, it's a portion of this person's essence that's trying to express itself through the nonprofit. Well, this is a very delicate and precious thing. I mean, it's not just like, well, we'll just get the $100 or the $1,000 and be done with them.
Right.
I mean, that's why it's just so critical to pay attention to the fact that, which is why we use this phrase over and over again, that fundraising is not about the money.
Yes.
It isn't. It really isn't. It's about bringing like-minded people, and by the way, like-minded institutions,
Mm-hmm.
in as partners to get the stuff done.
Yeah. It kind of ties into the next one that there's
Mm-hmm.
misguided thinking about. And I wish more leaders would embrace this, is that we don't recognize the spiritual nature of giving,
Mm-hmm.
and you see nonprofit leaders, talk crassly about, well, we just got to bring in the money. Just go out there and ask some people and, for the cash, because we got to get this thing done. Not
Mm-hmm.
understanding what happens when someone gives, that mystical experience that we've
Mm-hmm.
often written about and
Mm-hmm.
talked about, that happens when a donor who wants to change the world releases their money, their hard-earned cash, their living that they made, and
Mm-hmm.
gives it to you as the organization, because they trust that you're going to do something amazing with it and help change the world.
Well, and they trust that you're going to do something that they
Yeah.
want to get done. It's not
Yeah.
just about us trying to get something done. We over here in the nonprofit, and I think some people confuse when we say the word spiritual. We don't mean it with a capital S. We're not trying to say it's a certain religious
Right. No.
aspect to it, or a certain a faith journey. Or although people of faith, we would say it's both the it's both the small s and large s for those folks.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, like you used the word mystical, there is this very special, almost undefinable thing that happens when someone's giving, and it's and trust and sacredness. These words are very important in that whole
Yeah.
transaction. If we don't go with that, then we're basically manipulating and stealing. We're reaching into people's wallets and purses and taking their money, uh, which is why we have so much donor value attrition. And donor attrition is because we're
Mm-hmm.
treating people poorly, and we don't realize the nature of giving.
Yeah.
which is down this other track is kind of a related point.
Yeah.
Is misguided thinking on treating donors not as an end in of themselves, but as a means to an end.
Right. I know.
And Jeff, you and I both know what it feels like to be used. I mean, it, it is a horrible feeling to have someone basically value us for what they can get from us.
Yes.
And we've often used the word, and I use it very frequently too. Like I'll say, well, that person's a taker.
Yes.
They just take.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, and we
it,
see a lot of organizations that are takers. You know,
mm-hmm,
they want the money and they don't, the donor's like over here. And so it's like a person that um, takes advantage of you. You
mm-hmm.
don't feel good about that person. But the organization justifies it because, oh, well, we have this mission we've got. That's where we really have to focus on. The
Yep.
donors are just getting us the money to go there.
Mm-hmm.
So we can take advantage of these people. That's what, I mean, the organization is not saying that, but in their actions, that's what the donors are feeling.
Exactly. That's exactly how it comes out. And I remember this one situation, and you'll recall once I start talking about it of the organization that didn't have enough labor to process the Christmas giving.
Yeah.
And so you remember we discovered when we were visiting the office of this organization about 1,000 letters that had been unprocessed in February. So all the way from December giving,
Yeah.
they had been sitting on this table. And when we looked inside each of the letters, the money was gone, but the letter was still sitting there. So I asked the person, well, so why? So where's the money? Oh, well, we processed that the minute it came in. Well, so then what's it sitting? What's the letter sitting here for? Well, because we just didn't have the labor to actually get back to the donor. So they've taken the donor's money,
Yep.
means to an end,
Yep.
and they've not actually talked to the donor at all. I
Right.
mean, this is just abusive. It's unethical.
We'll take the money, but we don't really appreciate you enough to spend the
Mm-hmm.
money to get this back to you quickly and let you know that it made it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And the funny thing is when you look at the losses, the value attrition losses of that organization, they were in the millions of dollars, Jeff. Money that they could have spent to have the labor in December,
Yeah.
which then would have reduced the amount of loss they would have had, which would have netted more money for program and mission. It just does not make sense. So when you treat donors as a means to an end, this is what happens.
I know this goes back up to not understanding the role of fundraising.
I know.
It's just like all these things we've talked about are all
Mm-hmm.
interconnected. And this
Mm-hmm.
last one's even bigger, I think. This terrible thing, and that is the organization doesn't have systems that are set up to support the whole donor journey, the
Yep.
major donor journey of the pipeline, and
Right.
not only setting the organization up correctly as far as the organization and how people are working in different areas, but then also investing properly from acquisition all the way to planned
Mm-hmm.
giving.
Mm-hmm.
We're not
Exactly.
doing that.
Yeah, I saw you have a situation where an organization will invest $2 or $3 million in the acquisition of
Yeah.
donors. Now, why? Because they need to grab the donors in order to get the money, but
Right.
they won't invest in the cultivation and care of the donors they've acquired.
Yeah.
Now, that just does not make sense. Like, why would you do that? I mean, even if you're just purely selfish and you're going to use donors as a means to an end and you don't really care and blah, blah, you, it seems like you would invest the money to properly take care of them. Now, from our approach, if we would want you to invest the money to secure the donor.
Right.
We would also want you to invest the money to care for the donor properly and show respect for them,
Yeah.
which in turn will develop net revenue at a higher rate than not caring for them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And then continue to move up with it. So then we see organizations with no mid-level program, like barely any major gift program, Like how many organizations, Richard? I mean, large multi-million dollar
Mm-hmm.
organizations that have this amazing acquisition and cultivation engine, right? But then
Right.
they have no mid-level or major gift program.
Uh-huh.
And so there's no place for those donors to go.
I
It's
know.
like we're telling the donor, hey, we love that $25 gift. And we know you probably want to give more, but we're not going to allow you to.
I
I mean,
know.
it's
I know.
crazy.
It's crazy. Well, and not setting up support systems to properly care for donors,
Yeah,
the whole receiving function, uh, the reporting back function. How many organizations do not have a system in place to report and tell the donor how their gift made a difference? This
exactly.
this is something I just do not understand. I mean, if from purely an economic point of view, you're losing money, folks, if you don't invest in the back end of reporting back to the donor. You will lose money. You'll lose a significant amount of money and donors
Yeah,
if you don't do that. So why aren't you doing it?
exactly.
Separate from the fact that you ought to just be doing it because it's the respectful and honoring thing to do. It
Yeah.
just, yeah. So there you go. Not setting up those support
It's no
systems.
wonder you're bald. I mean, I knew you when you had a lot of hair.
I know.
And
It was,
it was beautiful hair you
I know. I'm in deep trouble now.
had. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the terrible things nonprofits do related to asking for a gift
Uh-huh.
and some of the things we've heard about or we've experienced. And we'll just kind of go through these a little quicker because otherwise we'd be here forever, seriously. But
Well, yeah, I mean, like one of them is like you send out an appeal to your donor and you address it, dear donor, or worse yet, you get the name wrong. I mean,
oh my
how many times
gosh.
have you gotten the name
Oh,
wrong?
that that is just awful. Well, it goes, here's the thing. Donors want to be known. The very
Exactly.
least you can do is make sure you get their name right,
Yep.
right? Because
Yep.
once you get it wrong, or you've got, Mr. Jeff Schreifels, no one says that. It's like, they don't care about you, that you're just, a number. Or
I
how
know.
about this one? You ask for a gift, donor gives you a gift, and then you take a month or more to thank them. It was
That's
like your
one.
story.
Yeah. That's one right there. A version of that is you ask for, they gave a gift. So like we have a situation. I remember one where the donor gave $1,000.
Yeah.
The organization then asks, for a gift of 35 or more, whatever you can do, and hasn't acknowledged the $1,000 that they gave. Plus,
Yeah.
is totally unaware of the fact that they're giving at a whole different level.
Yeah.
So or here's another one: you spend as much time on 1,000-year donor as you do a 100,000 year,
Oh, I
hundred
know.
thousand per year donor.
I mean, this is a case where you're asking these $100,000 donors, you're only cultivating them through the mail, or you're barely reaching out to them personally. And yet you got $1,000 a year donor that someone really likes on your staff, and now they're spending a bunch of time with that donor. I mean, uh, it's just out of whack.
Right.
Um, which is why we do all our tiering, and so that we can help major gift officers focus on the donor, on the donor that are giving the highest net worth value from you. So that happens all the time. How about this one? The CEO refuses to ask donors for a gift. We see this a lot.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I don't really like fundraising. I'm not comfortable knowing. And here's the thing. If you want to cultivate major donors, those major donors who want to make 6 and 7 figure gifts want to speak to the CEO. They want to
Yes.
hear from them.
Yep.
So if you're not willing to do that, don't expect to get those big gifts.
Well, this is where a board of directors or whoever's hiring a CEO or executive director or president of the organization should actually have as one of the criteria your willingness and
Yeah,
ability to ask. I mean,
good
that's
point.
important.
Very good point.
Here's one: if you have a donor that gives you a large gift to fund a project and the project doesn't go as planned, instead of communicating that to the donor,
Yeah.
uh, You hide the problem,
Oh yeah.
which is sort of like the next one that you were going to bring up about being transparent. I mean, you're not open with the donor about what's going on.
You have to be transparent. You have to be honest. If
Mm-hmm.
things go bad, you have to talk to them. And we know because we've experienced these with other organizations that both on the positive and the negative side, when you tell the truth and you're open about it to the donors most likely have the empathy and understanding because not everything goes right. you know, they
Well,
understand
I mean, it
they have
never does
businesses
in
too.
business. I mean, in
Yeah.
business, I mean, life is that way. You have more failures to get to the successes. I mean, that's just how it is.
But then we've seen on the other side, when they hold back and they don't tell the donor, they eventually do get in trouble because people find out.
Yep. Yep. Here's one. You have a donor who gives 5,000 every year, but you never challenge that donor to give more because you're afraid they'll get upset.
Oh,
This one is so interesting to me because it's like, well, of course, if you don't actually sit and talk to the donor about what they want to accomplish through the organization and how much more they could do,
yeah.
and you're talking at that level, and if you're just talking about getting more money, of course they're going to be upset.
Yes.
It's just so.
I mean, uh, it's crazy. Well, this is what happened. We create all of this, this mindset. We create a story in our head about our donors, especially the ones that, every year they've been giving the same amount. And when we ask the major gift officer, like, well, why aren't they giving more? Well, they always just give in November that $5,000 check.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, have you ever asked them for more? Oh no, I mean, we never really have to ask. They just give that gift. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Do you know them very well? Not really, because I don't want to bother them. It goes and they create the story in this head about a donor who could be giving so much more, but they're not engaging them
But
because
that's
they're
that.
just
Yeah,
getting that $5,000 gift, and at least they can count on that.
but that's focusing on the money, and that's the
I know.
problem. If you were focused with that donor on what the donor wants to accomplish, then the conversation would be like, well, what else are we going to do to get this problem that we both care about, get this problem solved?
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah. All right, I want to switch now to talking about some other terrible things. And this is really around the system and the structure of major gifts. Um,
Okay, yep. So on that
so,
one, yeah, you allow your major gift officers, here's one, to have hundreds of unqualified donors in their
uh,
portfolios, hoping that the larger the portfolio, the greater the chance of getting the $1 million gift. I mean, so like 500, 600. I mean, remember the one
oh,
major gift officer that had 1,200
yeah,
people on
yeah.
the caseload? Like, really?
And what they knew like 25 of them, really.
Yes, yeah. And so it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, or
Wow.
you don't have an internal system that helps the organization know how the real cost of their projects and program, including the overhead
Yep,
costs.
yep.
So no one knows, they're just asking for operations and, you know, they're not actually trying to help donors specifically give their gifts to tangible things that
Yeah,
can lift their
yep,
giving.
yep. This is a big area. So like, if you take a nonprofit's budget and you say, okay, let's look at that one area. Like, how much do you spend in that one area? Well, we spend $2 million.
Yeah,
Well, no, you don't. You probably spend 2.8 because you got to add the overhead in. That's
exactly.
actually part of what the cost is. So that's what you're talking about
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Okay. How about this one? You leave out the emotion of fundraising and only report facts and figures, no stories on how you're changing the world. I mean, we see this a lot on the major gift side. It's like, well, the emotion side is really in the acquisition cultivation stage, not when they get to be major donors. That's
Right.
totally false. People give out of their heart, from their heart, their emotions. And we have to tap into that no matter if a donor is giving $25 or 25,000 or 25 million. It
Pe-
still is from the heart.
yep. People want to solve problems, and
Yep.
problems, when you discuss problems on this planet, whether it has to do with people, animals, nature, any of that stuff. It's an emotional thing. So you got to tell those stories. And sort of a related point is in some cases, an organization just doesn't figure out how donors want to be communicated with. So we just do what we want to do with them.
I know. Let's just do what we want. It doesn't matter if the donor doesn't want to be called. I'm going to call them anyway. It's like,
right.
Really? Or you don't have a donor database that doesn't, or you have a donor database that doesn't allow you to create an individual revenue goal or strategic plan for every donor in your portfolio. And you know what? Quite honestly, it's most of donor databases are like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're great on if you want to put in what I did, but if you want to create a plan that allows you to know what you're doing with a donor, they're very limited. This is something we've been trying to help solve for a long time. And we wish those folks that are creating donor databases would understand this.
Yes. And so instead of looking back and documenting what's happened in the past, it's looking forward to what we're going to do in the forward. That's a big one. Another one is the whole move of frontline fundraisers or program folks to interact with donors only at events.
Oh, I know. Like we're afraid to reach out to donors. So like, oh, well, events coming up, I'll interact with donors then. We're not reaching out. We're not trying to get in front of them or Zoom or anything because, I'm just not feeling comfortable. It's amazing how many major gift officers are uncomfortable actually meeting with donors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another one is, and this is big, is that we don't allow our program folks to interact with donors. Like somehow, as a major gift officer, I'm the only one, or the CEO can only interact with the donor. I don't want anyone in the organization to do that. It's so dumb.
Well, I mean, the program folks have all that information, the stories, the frontline stuff. I mean, it's like I would put them out there talking to donors all the time. I mean, it's very, very important.
Yeah.
Another situation is and we've talked about this, investing heavily in donor acquisition and not having a major mid plan giving program. And you don't do the plan giving thing because it's too much trouble. I mean,
I know.
So all of these things, I mean, we've been pretty negative on this thing so far, but what we're trying to say is,
well, these are the terrible things nonprofits are doing
that hurt donors. I know. And so like, don't do these things. That's why we're going through all of this detail.
Well, let's talk some more about measuring and analyzing the program.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the stupid things we're doing on that one.
Well, you see it like a donor retention rate is about 40% overall. And you decide, well, that's just standard in our business. So we just don't address it.
Right. I know.
Or donor value attrition, like you're going to talk about, is 40 to 60%. Like, well, okay. Whatever.
Yeah. So we just say, well, that's the way it is. So therefore, we're just going to have to double our acquisition every year because we're losing all these donors.
So let's spend more money to get more donors in to make up for the ones that are lost.
And now, as you talk about it, it just sounds utterly ridiculous, right?
It does.
But it just keeps happening. It's like you can see this, all these donors, revenue going away, and like, maybe we need to invest there to stop them flowing away. No, we got to keep the acquisition thing going, and let's double down on that thing. I mean,
I wonder why that. I mean, I've never understood why that happens. Maybe it's not being able to actually trust that you can actually change reduce the flow of donors out of the organization. I don't know.
That could be it.
Could be.
I think another is that on the direct response side, it's all about immediate gratification, right? Mm-hmm. So like you can spend $1 million And within 12 months, you should start to see that coming back. Or even like when you do an appeal to a cultivation appeal, you're going to see returns in like between 2 to 4 weeks. So you're seeing money coming in like, and you get this idea that this is how you're generating the revenue, not thinking that, no, it's really over the long term where you're going to be generating the net revenue for your organization.
Yeah. I mean, I would want to secure 100 donors and then try to work really hard at keeping as many of those 100 donors as possible versus securing 100 donors and then saying, well, okay, I'm going to lose 40, 50.
Yeah.
And I'm going to spend more money so that I can kind of creep ahead year to year.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. And then the value attrition thing is another thing. Is and that's back to the impact, talking about reporting back and impact.
Yeah.
Is that if we don't do that, we're going to have high value attrition. Why? Because the donor doesn't know they made a difference.
Right.
So they go somewhere else to make a difference. And whereas if we invested in reporting back,
right,
we could actually reduce that.
Exactly.
KPIs. Here's another one. The KPIs for the frontline fundraiser focus on face-to-face meetings and the number of phone calls and emails they send. So it focuses on activity versus actually meaningful connections.
That's right. And
like,
actual
why are you doing
it? I know. It's like I've never understood that. Like when we're sitting there working with our major gift officers, with our clients, we're making sure that we have a revenue goal for every donor, and it's cash flowed. So we know what to expect every month. And then, we're tracking meaningful connections. Are we having a two-way connection? Is the relationship getting deeper? And, is the major gift officer working their plan? Because we know that if they're working their plan, they make their goals, right?
Exactly.
And the only way we know we can have those conversations because we're working with them every week to determine that. And a lot of times the reason why we have these crazy KPIs, like, all the numbers, how many phone calls, how many emails, is because they don't have a manager really. And so they're managing at arm's length. And so the only way they can kind of look to see if they're actually doing any work is by looking at, these ridiculous KPIs of the number of phone calls or the number
measuring
of
activity.
They're just measuring activity. They're not actually sitting down with the major gift officer and talking about these donors and wondering how they're deepening the relationship.
Which is back to transactional fundraising. Is back to that whole thing of going for the money versus actually going for the relationship. If you were going for the relationship, you'd be measuring the relationship.
And you'd have deeper conversations with your managers about how you're building that relationship with the donor.
What's interesting? Yeah. What's interesting about this? I mean, as we're sitting here talking about all this stuff, Jeff, and to kind of get up to a higher level, it's like this whole thing that we've been talking about terrible things that nonprofits do that hurt donors, has everything to do with just not understanding how fundraising really works.
Yeah.
And that it's this very sacred, special thing that happens with another human being or a group of human beings in an institution.
Yeah.
It's this special thing that happens with them to join us in doing good on the planet. We just forget about all that, and we're down this other track in all of these areas.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's just shocking.
Whew. Well, I think we covered a lot today. And I hope this has helped you identify some areas where you may actually be hurting your donor relationships. And remember, as Richard said, donors are not a means to an end. They're the lifeblood that's helping you carry out your mission. If you'd like to learn more about this topic area and how to create a culture that supports and values donors, then download our free white paper on building a culture of philanthropy. Go to veritasgroup.com, go to our resource tab, and then hit white papers, and there it will be, building a culture of philanthropy. Well, this is good, Richard.
It was.
Yeah. We went through a lot of terrible things. So hopefully the folks can avoid those things. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for the Nothing But Major Gifts podcast from Veritas Group. Richard and Jeff also write an ongoing blog that you can subscribe to for free at veritasgroup.com. Please join us again next time.